So, first things first, gentlemen. How are you?
Very well.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
It's very good to hear. So, where I want to start with is, Rens, do you remember hearing the Temples for the first time?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, there was the release of the first single, and I heard it. I think on via 3 for 12 platform, and I thought, yeah, this is great. I was really into that music, and I heard it, and I thought, yeah, man, this is happening. This is great. I really needed this right now, and yeah. So that was really cool.
For you, do you remember around that time of the first single, what kind of the feeling was in the band?
Not really. It was, what year would that have been? 2013, early 2013, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, we just started to tour a bit more outside of England, I think. But yeah, still maybe no more than 20 shows or something all together as Temples.
How serious were you at that point as a band?
It was still very new, and I think we were getting to grips with the idea that we had to play shows and tour, because we never intended to at the start. It was just a studio project, and so yeah, it was all very exciting. And yeah, I believe the first time we played in Utrecht at the Echo. Is it the Echo?
yeah.
Yeah.
Echo.
That was our first introduction to each other. Yeah, on the same bill.
Yeah,
So.
we were pushing to supported you, and and it worked out, and it was cool. Yeah.
What were the first impressions then? Because it's well, similar music, but then in a different country. What did you see in each other?
Yeah, I think there's that sort of global community of bands, who have similar influences, or
Right.
Can be bracketed as psychedelic rock, or which is really there is no genre in particular. It can be more electronic or more ambient, or more heavy rock, and it all works within that umbrella of psychedelia, and so yeah, you'd meet various bands in different places when we were touring, and yeah, certainly Pow was one band who we really thought had a great sound, a good mix of sort of styles and approach to songwriting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I think there's one big pool, and we're all fishing in that pool, and they're the same kind of influences and bands we like are swimming in that pool, and we're trying to fish them out, and it's like we really love the same bands, I think, and worked out in the music as well. And, yeah.
This might be a very general question, but what got you into psychedelic music then? What to you, and still is, the appeal of psychedelic music?
I suppose, I mean, when you're growing up, you either embrace your parents' record collection or you renounce it, And I happened to embrace my parents. So there were some Pink Floyd records, some like Yes albums, and which they kind of really influenced hearing it from an early age, whilst also having like a Ramones album and a Sex Pistols, and so the two things together, I think, sort of began an interest in it. And then things like the Nuggets compilation is a fantastic introduction for anyone to hear.
Yeah.
And a lot of nights in you know, in London played that sort of music, and yeah, it's just it certainly grabs you, and you know is I guess you know very thought-provoking music, and some of it even thought-provoking pop music. You know,
and it comes in a lot of different ways. I think, I think most of the bands from the era, late 60s, 70s, got their own style, but also tried to do something else, and maybe it evolved in those kind of psychedelic, sideways stuff. Maybe some bands did, and I think so also the nugget stuff, you can really dance on it, and some stuff is really ambience, and it comes in different forms, and that's also what I really like about it.
And then you mentioned kind of, because I'm not the most social guy, but I've never seen really a big scene here in the Netherlands in terms of that music. But is it still very much alive in London, for instance?
I think so, yeah, maybe especially London. Or certainly at the time of the band forming, there was circles of people and putting on nights where they played that kind of music, and that there was a real interest in, you know, certainly record collecting and like discovering, you know, just incredible, weird, odd songs, and that constant quest for finding something, you know, the next thing interesting from that era that may have not have been, you know, unearthed or that, you know, appealed to you. But is there one in the Netherlands? Not as such? Or?
Yeah, not that specific. I really once I was in London for the first time, and I was 18 or something, and there were some incredible parties people threw, and like the nugget stuff, and I didn't. That was my first introduction actually, and it happens in London. It didn't happen here over here, I think. So that was more in London. Also with the record shops, and but you've got some good ones in Amsterdam now. But I first saw it in London happening.
And then go ahead. And then for the band then, because you mentioned you weren't necessarily looking to play live early on. When that did happen and it took off, like you say, you were only 20 shows in, that's the first single.
Something like that, yeah.
What did the mentality of the band begin to shift and look more towards, well, we're going to be a proper band and do that whole touring thing?
I guess so, yeah. At the time we were still writing the first record, so there was just lots going on, and it just became a part of, well, you know, we have to write and play shows, and it just became, people asked us to play, so we weren't going to say no.
Did you enjoy it early on?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic, yeah. But we had to sort of grow up as a band in front of many people, really, you know, where people may do that themselves and then only become apparent to people, you know, nearer the time of an album but we had to do it in front of, while playing shows.
So does that mean a lot of trial and error and then kind of...
I think so, yeah. I think so. As with any band, I'm sure, yeah.
Because what, as being the Temples then, when the drummer left last year, what did you see in Rens that you thought, well, that might work as a drummer?
I mean, we always, from that first show, we were very impressed with how he was playing. Very sort of unique style. And I don't know. I mean, you never know, I guess, if it's if it is going to work, you know, because it in a way, but yeah, I guess we were certainly confident, more so than it just being someone, you know, who we hadn't seen before maybe, or to run auditions or something.
Yeah.
It would be strange for us to do that. I think we've always been a fairly tight knit band, and it made sense that it would be someone we know, you know, that we knew of. So yeah, it was Rens was top of the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for you then, because you, like you say, you knew their music for a while, that you've been on tours together, so you know the guys. What is it like then to receive that phone call or email or however it went? Hey, do you perhaps want to play with us?
Yeah. You sent me that message, and I was, we all, in between the years we kept in touch, just going to gigs and sending sometimes some messages or something, and so you sent me a message, and like, oh cool, Tom is sending me a message, but there were the ask if I want to be their new drummer, and I had to read it twice to. It's really you're really sending it, and I didn't have to think about it that long, of course, because I love the music. They're just great guys, and so why not? And it's gonna be great. So let's do it.
Yeah, it's just the beginning.
Well, because I'm not sure about the timeline, but when was this when this happened?
It was maybe just before last summer.
Okay.
There was like a 6-month period where we didn't have a drummer, and it was an interesting time. I mean, we've changed record labels, you know, like booking agent. Various things seemed to come to an end after the last record. So it was, it took us a while to slowly pick up again, and think about, you know, more than just writing some songs or having time away from the band. And I think it was sort of June last year that we played the first show, which was in Bilbao in Spain.
How did it go?
Yeah, that was a great show. Yeah, it was a good first one.
It was a festival show, I think. And it's we're gonna have many more to come, I think.
Sure. That period of maybe uncertainty is not the right word, but does that make kind of what you're heading into now feel like a new beginning of sorts?
I think so. Yeah, even more so. It feels like certainly a new chapter towards what we're going to do next and what's to come. And I think, you know, after sort of 5 years of the band existing, it felt like that needed to happen as well.
Or let me phrase it differently. What did you notice, or what did you see that kind of gave you this realization?
Yeah, I guess a slight amount of malaise towards touring, and creatively it felt like it was coming to a head to some degree. And I think the intensity of playing and writing and just being in the spotlight of being a band and being on the clock, you know, as to when your next record's coming out and what you're doing next. It was nice to remove ourselves from that for even half a year, you know, and then to visit it again and, you know, have a new setup. It kind of naturally feels like something new.
Sure.
Which I think is important.
What you mentioned, I think, is very interesting. That when you take obviously you're in that microcosm of a band for so many years and touring and playing and everything.
Yeah.
And then you were in a way forced to take a step back for those 6 months. So did you see something about maybe your own musicality, but also your own path in music in a way?
Yeah, perhaps. I think only when you stop is when you realise, wow, that's what we've just done, and that 6-month break was the longest time we'd had away from doing anything to do with the band. So yeah, I think there were just some changes that needed to happen, and sort of losing members and record labels are things that aren't always taken lightly. It's quite a big change, and it kind of brings you together, I think, as a band, even more so, and but they're all positive changes. They had to happen, I think, for us to go on in a positive way, and it's twice as exciting as it was 18 months ago.
Fair enough. Yeah. How much of the record was done maybe a year ago?
Sort of a year ago, maybe half of it. We'd been writing for that time away, individually, and then it was finished more towards the end of 2018. So yeah.
And Rens, for you, when you're joining a band that's already kind of established, and what is it like, especially when they're already quite far with the record and you kind of come in?
Yeah.
What was that intimidating? What was it for you to go through kind of that adjustment period?
First I have to get used to some things, because it was really it was a step up for me. The gigs were bigger, and the whole organization was more fluent, and I have to get used to that. First time, I went to Henry, the tech guy, was building up my drums, and I used to did it myself, and it was.
So that's great for you.
That was great, but it was first like what can I do and stuff, but no, it's okay. So but it was I got used to it very quickly, and and go with the flow of the band, how they already doing it for a few years. So and it's now it's just going naturally.
Sure. You fit right in, I think. Yeah.
And
it didn't take long.
Yeah. Kind of what you mentioned earlier, because mostly we talked about the music, but on a personal level, is that always a question mark, in the sense that you never really know if it's going to work, but then I suppose on a personal level it
I mean, well. That's a big part of being in a band, and I feel like the only reason maybe we've survived as long as Temples did was because we're all from the same small town, and you kind of understand each other's temperament in a way. But one thing came to another, and changes had to happen, and I mean, it's important to get on very well with each other, and we always have, and I think that knowing someone well to some degree is an very important part of succeeding as a band, and not sort of the wheels coming off in a year or two or something, which maybe would happen if it was just some random person off the street who was good at drums, but to have Rens is feels like an integral part of what we do next.
And Rens, for you as well, what this might be too early, but what did you learn about being in a band, being in music by joining Temples? Because obviously you've been around with Pau, and but like you said, this is a step up. So have you discovered something about how you see music or how you approach music through working with these guys?
Yeah.
If not, I mean, maybe it's too early to say, but
Yeah, it's also with Temples now, they really know what they're doing in a really wide way, like sound wise and songwriting wise and all that stuff, and really aware of what they're doing, and that's for me really important. And it's a good question actually, because I try to be aware of stuff as well, and try to fit in quite well with my sounds and my way and approach of playing the songs, and but I don't know if I'm asking or questioning your.
No, that's fine.
I think maybe we've learned more from playing with Rens.
Can you give me one example?
I don't know. I mean, when you have a new musician in the band, of course, you adapt. Everyone adapts to play with each other, and it just brings a new approach in, even if you're not fully aware of it. You know, it feels different. You know, and I think it's certainly a mutual thing. You know, that you and you constantly learn from each other from playing. You know, so. We have a lot to teach each other. I think.
And growing and growing.
What I like, what you said, Rens, as well, is kind of that Temples as a band has a vision. So Ironheart Motion, was there kind of an idea where you wanted that record to go?
It kind of picked up momentum, I think, as the record was being written, but yeah, there was definitely a shift more to a guitar-focused record again, and it being sort of less layers and less complex sounds going on, and just sort of stripping it back to, you know, drums, bass and guitar, and making those as big as possible and sounding, you know, achieving what many layers of, you know, atmosphere and reverb could achieve, you know. So I think that was a loose direction. We wanted it to have that sound.
Well, because I can imagine, and since you self-produce and then you have your own home studio, I imagine the possibilities are endless. So to kind of set yourself up, not to just go on tinkering until you have no more time.
It's very difficult to sort of redefine yourself, and you're in charge of that, and the parameters of that also. But you sort of manage to do it. Especially, I mean, if you're not making the same record every time you make an album, and you have that desire to explore, then, you know, you constantly push in a different direction on each record. And I think, by our third record, we just wanted to push more towards a guitar-focused album, and realizing maybe that's part of who we are as a band, rather than just the sound of our first record or the sound of one of our records.
But is that also part of kind of? I always see music as kind of experimenting anyway, kind of trying to figure out your identity. So the previous album, Volcano, what did you kind of have to make that record in order to arrive at where you are now?
I think very much so. I think, you know, I mean, it's a tired cliche, but, you know, the second album is in a band's trajectory is always, you know, is they either do the same thing as the first record or they do an experimental
Right.
record and everyone moves on to synthesizers, you know. And I think maybe it was somewhere in between, and kind of, yeah, that was part of the process of arriving at where you are now. You know, you don't realise what you have and it's gone, or not part of your makeup, and then as soon as you put it back in, you realise this is what you're comfortable in, but also progress forward with that
Right.
as well. You know, because we always aim to do that.
So final question then. I never like where do you see yourself in 5 years, but how do you see kind of this album cycle for Hot Motion kind of working? What are your
Ideally,
thoughts on
or
it? Well,
Yeah.
well, more in the sense of kind of what do you expect to happen in the next 2 years, or how do you see the development and kind of the addition of Rens kind of becoming more solid, and then just I suppose by playing together you kind of grow as a band. So the next couple of months, how important are they?
they're going to be very important and very exciting. I mean, I think we've probably played maybe 10 shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most were festival shows over the course of the last year, and yeah, to have not even toured yet, and to have that to look forward to again, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man.
Not only for ourselves as a band, but with Rens as well. It's, you know, it really is just the beginning of what we're about to do next, and to play as many shows as we possibly can in the next year or two for this record would be ideal.
All right, sounds good.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was great.
All right.
Yeah.